Welcome to today's layout, and this is a layout that I had promised back at the beginning of October, and now we are on Halloween, and I am finally getting back around to this. So this is the October layout. This is the layout from the pattern paper that we made in part 1 and from the embellishments that we made in part 2, and now we're going to create a layout for this. October just got away from me with family obligations and work and some other things, so it's been a while for me to try and get back to this, to try and finish out this third in the series for this Halloween layout. But hopefully you will have not waited in vain, and that is a layout that you really do enjoy us putting together. So again, over on the left-hand side here, these were the embellishments that we did in part 2. And then the paper that we made was in part 1, and this was using the stencil from the newest stencil pack that Close to My Art has. And this is a rotating stencil that we use four different colors on to create this star pattern. So the next thing we need to do is we need to pick a layout that we want to use, or design a layout that we want to use for this particular layout. We're using a lot of words the same way. So what I have done is I have gone to our newest idea book, and our newest idea book is Make It From Your Heart, Volume 6. And this is a combination of layouts. These are layouts that are cards, as well as single page layouts and double page layouts. Now with this, I'm going to make a couple of recommendations on how to use this. One is to start with the sketches that are at the beginning of the book. Each one of our idea books has the sketches in the front, and then examples and cutting guides on the actual pages. And what I find is if I go directly to the pictures and the cutting guides, then I kind of get stuck in what has been designed by the artists or by the creators of those particular layouts. And so starting with the sketch gives you a little bit more freedom of which sketch to use. You don't get sort of locked into what someone else has done with that particular sketch layout. So one of the things that is important is to realize in this particular case, we have some pretty large embellishments, right? This little gnome, witch, and wizard are quite large. And then we also have the piece that is going to go next to it with the cauldron. So we've got quite a lot of space that we are going to be taking up with just these two embellishments that we have here. And so when I went through looking at potential designs, I was looking with that in mind. Where could I place these two embellishments and make it make sense? And when I looked at the single page layouts, maybe this one might have worked, but I didn't really like the design or the style. This one might have worked too, because it's got this big space right here that I could use. I've not put a photo here, but I could use that space. But again, wasn't really talking to me. So none of the single page layouts really worked for me. When I started looking at the double page layouts, I found that there were actually 2 or 3 of these that I thought could actually work for, again, not only the placement of these large embellishments, but the fact that usually with Halloween pictures, I have quite a few pictures. I have, the beginning of the night with the kids getting ready, then some of the trick-or-treating, and then some pictures at the end of the night where they've got the candy spread all out and sorting and all of those good things. So I had quite a few pictures. So I really didn't think that this layout would work well. This one might have, but the circles weren't really talking to me for this particular layout. I'm not exactly sure why. This layout, layout 15, I thought would work perfectly. I've got this nice space here that I can use for my embellishments, as well as a title. And then I'm able to put 6 pictures here of varying different sizes. And I thought that one might work. On the second page, this layout 18, I also thought might work as well. Again, I've got a nice big space here for my embellishments and a title, and then I've got lots of different size pictures that I can use with this layout. So this is the one that we're going to work with right now, and this one is how we're going to design our page that we're going to build next. So once I've done that, that's going to be on page 40. I went ahead and went to that page to sort of look at the design. And again, this is exactly what I meant by you kind of get stuck when you look at their designs on how you might use this. But what I came here to do is to take a look at some of the measurements that are part of this pattern. And I'm going to start playing with my papers and seeing how I might want to lay this out. So we've got a narrow strip here on the edge that you see here. We've got a narrow strip at the top. We have a slightly wider strip down below. Again, slightly wider, narrow, and then wide again. So what I'm trying to do is figure out which combination of the pattern papers and the solid papers that I have will make this look the best. So I'm going to push this off to the side, and we're going to start playing with our papers a little bit in our Versamat. So what I've done is I've pulled out our papers again that we were working with back in the part 1, and I've got our star paper. I've got our paper from Gnomes from Autumn, that's the stripe. I have the mix-in paper that goes away at the end of today, if I get this uploaded, hopefully today. And then I've got the limeade pattern paper as well from Gnomes from Autumn. So these were the papers I was going to work with. I also have some limeade solid cardstock. I have pumpkin cardstock, and then I have the royal cardstock. So again, these are 3 more that I'm going to be looking at using. And what I'm going to do is kind of use my Versamat to map out essentially that pattern that I just showed you. And so how do I want this to work? What is the sequence of colors and patterns do I want to put together? And so I'm going to try and use my Versamat to kind of help me out here. So I'm thinking at the bottom, I want to use this gingham paper. This piece, this particular strip of paper is going to be roughly 2 3/4. So by using my Versamat here at the top, I can measure this out and I can lay my next paper down. Now don't worry that I'm going vertical. If I was going horizontal, it would go off of the camera and you wouldn't be able to see this. So that's why I'm working in the going across versus up and down. All right, so then the next pattern of paper is going to be 2 inches. So I'm going to lay down the black at the 2 3/4, and then that will give me my next block of color. Then I think I want to bring in a piece of solid cardstock. So if this is going to be 2 inches, then I'm going to go up 2 inches on my Versamat, and I'm going to lay this acorn piece of paper, sorry, not acorn, pumpkin piece of paper down like that. And that's going to give me a little bit of separation, giving me a bit of eye space for my eye to rest. Okay, so then that is 2 1/2. So I'm going to lay my next piece of paper down at 2 1/2. So that would be 1, 2, and essentially this is going to lay down right here. But I think I'm going to just lay it on top just just for ease here. So then I have that piece. And then my last piece, or sorry, my second to last piece is going to be, what is that dimension real quick? That's 2 inches. So 2 inches. So that would be right about here. And then this would be my last piece. Now, as I'm looking at this, I don't like it. I don't like the way it's laid out, right? And so this is why doing some dry fitting can really help you make sure that you like the way it looks. I don't like the way this looks. I think this doesn't quite go. So I'm going to reorganize my papers again, and we're going to start and see if I can make this look a little bit better. So I'm going to start with my pattern paper that we created first. And then I'm going to put down, maybe do a solid piece next, right? So I've got my pattern paper and I've got my solid piece. Then let's see if we like the green here. No, not liking that. So maybe we'll try the stripe. Maybe the stripe's better. Okay, I think that works better. Then we're going to put down our black, and we could then finish this off with the green. And I'm not sure I like that. I might not use this green. I might just actually use the rest of this pattern paper. Or I might go with a solid piece. Maybe I need a solid piece here, another solid, to make it a little less busy. And then I might want to finish this off with, say, the royal down here at the bottom, because we had another piece, a half an inch piece down the side. So this to me looks a little bit better as a sequence of papers. It's not nearly as busy as, say, putting these other pieces in. Now I should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we've got 5 here. The other thing I could do is I could take another strip of our pattern paper here, and it's a narrow strip. That piece at the top is only 3/4 of an inch. So I might take this and repeat it at the top as another option. And that will then give me sort of a balance of pattern a little bit. All right, so I'm pretty happy with this at the moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go away. We're going to do some cutting, and then we'll come back and take a look at how this will lay out. All right, we're back with some dry fitting that I've done. So I've cut all my pieces, and I did a bit of dry fitting for you to get an idea of what this would look like. So again, we did our star pattern paper at the bottom here. Then we have our pumpkin paper, our stripe paper, our black splotty paper that looks like the sky, and then our star paper again. The couple of pieces as I was cutting that I want to mention is make sure when you're cutting anything that's got a pattern that you cut it the same direction. So you don't want the stripe going horizontal on one piece and then vertical on the other piece. So again, when you're cutting, just make sure that you're paying attention if you have a directional pattern. The other thing was with our pattern paper here that we created, I did sort of play around a little bit about which pieces I wanted to cut and put together because, again, depending on how you lay these out, it might look better one way or another. Now, the good thing is that it's not really a directional paper, but you know, you may want to play around a little bit with this one to get the patterns to look semi-similar as they're crossing the page here. I also dry fit some of my embellishments so that you have some idea of that. And you'll notice that we actually do have a fairly large space here. This is probably where I'm going to put some journaling, and I will put the title. So we'll come back and we'll do that at the end here. So our next step is to actually start getting this adhered down. So I'm going to take off my embellishments here, and we're going to do some adhering, which is not necessarily the most interesting part of the video, but I do want to just talk about lining things up a little bit and giving some perspective on how to do that. So I'm going to grab my tape runner here, and I am going to sort of pull this piece aside, and we're going to focus on this left side first. I did end up using the patterned paper, that's the limeade pattern paper. I did cut a piece of just straight limeade, and I did cut a piece of the royal, as I had mentioned. And when I put the royal down, I didn't like it. I didn't like, even though I've got the purples in the stars, it just felt off to me. And so then I cut a piece of the limeade, just solid limeade, and again, didn't do much for me. And so I did end up going back and cutting this piece of limeade pattern paper instead, and I was happier with that when I laid it out. And again, this is all going to be personal preference, right? This is all going to be what you like when you're looking at it. Okay, so with this particular layout, we are going to be putting the edge of these cut pieces of paper to the edge of our base page. This is linen. I pulled out black, it was too dark. I pulled out white, it wasn't enough contrast. I am using the white version of the pattern paper that we made. So I thought the linen gave me the light side of linen, because remember our cardstock has two sides. The light side of linen seemed to be a nice neutral that allowed the pattern paper to pop, but it wasn't so dark that it didn't show well. Okay, so here we go. Let's get some adhesive down. And I am using the new Close to My Heart tape runner here. Want to get a nice good piece down. And we are going to go 3/4 of an inch up from the bottom and butt it against this edge. And this is where the Versamat is really helpful. As long as you get this lined up well on your Versamat, which I always seem to have a problem with. So we're going to get that as close as we can. It looks about good. And we are going to go 3/4 of the way up on this, and we're going to butt it right against the edge of our base page, like so. If you have a T-square ruler, you can lay that down too to make sure that you're even all the way across. I'm eyeballing it on my side. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to put some adhesive down so this page stops moving on me. I'm doing all 4 corners. You really only need to do 2 corners to keep it from moving on you, but it's moving a little bit too much for my liking. So I'm going to just anchor that down. All right, so here we go again. I'm going to go 3/4 here. And I'm going to look over on this side, see if I'm even. Again, you can pull out a ruler and go straight across 3/4, 3/4, and you can make sure that you line that up like so. Okay, so that's piece number 1. Piece number 2 is going to just go right down on top of it. I am using the darker side of the pumpkin in this case. Again, I don't want it to move when I'm out of adhesive. Okay, so then this one's going to just sit right on top of that piece there. Again, making sure, hopefully I'm not overhanging here. I have a feeling I'm overhanging a little bit. I am. I'm going to pick this guy up and move it just a smidge because I'm overhanging just a bit too much there. You want it right up against the edge, but not overhanging. Okay, right there, that's good. Okay, and then we're just going to keep stacking these as I said. And the nice thing about our new Close to My Heart adhesive is that you can refill it. We couldn't do that before, and now we have the ability to get refills, which I love. I love the fact that all I have to do is do a refill. I don't have to get a whole nother plastic piece out. All right, so again, same thing. We're just going to butt this up to the end and right up against the piece above it. And then we'll do our black piece. And then our stars again. So once you get that first piece down, it's pretty easy to get everything else lined up. Now this piece is going to go down the side. And if you wanted to, if you wanted more space at the bottom than the top, you could adjust this. This is a fairly flexible pattern, and it allows you to, adjust if you wanted to have a little bit more. Like I said, if you wanted to have less space at the top, have it more even, you could do that as well. Okay, so that is the left side. I am going to go ahead and do the right side right now, because one of the things that in this particular pattern, you need to match these pieces, and that's important. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that I get this butted right up against my other piece. And again, I'm just going to tack this down so that it doesn't move, because I want to make sure that these two pieces match up. And that's important in order for this layout to look cohesive. Right, that's the important part. All right, so we're going to go ahead and put this piece on. And like I said, you need to decide which way looks best to you. Do you like it like this, or are you going to turn this one over like that? Now, I don't happen to like that. I think that looks wrong. So we're going to go ahead and go this way like this. And again, we're coming to the edge of that paper and matching it up. And then we're just going to do that all the way up. Again, this left side, or right side, matching it up to the left side. Okay, I think I have to turn my stripes upside down. Oh, nope, I didn't match that very well. It looks like that's a little bit better. Okay. And that one. And this one. All right. And I'm going to go like this, I think, on this one. There we go. All right. So now we have our base layout done. The last thing I wanted to talk about before we start embellishments is talking about the mats and the photo mats, or the photos and the photo mats. So I decided to go with black, and I actually, now that I have these cut, I may change my mind again. Let's just see if I like this or not. So what I did is I cut my photo mats to in this case 4x6. So the black is 4x6, and then I took my pictures, or in this case my placeholders for my pictures, and I cut them down by 1/8 of an inch to get that border. This is a paper saving way of doing photo mats. If I cut the photo mat 1/8 of an inch larger on each side, so 6 1/8 by 4 1/8, then I would have these little pieces of paper left over. Sometimes that's not a problem. You can just throw it away. But if you just trim your picture a little bit, you're not taking that much off. You're taking 1/8 of an inch off of 2 sides. You can really get more, you can stretch your paper a little bit better. And so that's really what I decided to do and wanted to show you here. So on my photo placeholders, place photo here, I just trimmed 2 sides 1/8 of an inch to get that border. And I think that really works well when you're trying to conserve paper. So again, just a thought, you don't have to do that. Obviously you can, match the measurements that are on the paper, or on the pattern. But if you're trying to conserve paper, or you just want to make your things like photo mats go a little bit farther with one sheet of a 12 by 12 piece of paper, then that is a nice little tip. Again, my cuts were not very clean on these photo mats, so they're not giving you an exact full reveal all the way around, but I'm probably the only one that will ever notice that. That won't be noticed by anyone who's looking at this. And when I put my pictures on this, again, I'll just make my photos either slightly smaller, or I will trim them up when I get them back from the photo photo processing. I do tend to do most of my pictures at home, so it's not a huge deal. Also, the 3x3s, I did the same thing again, and on the 2x2s, I also did the same thing. So I have the photo mats at the 2x2 size, and I trimmed these down. All right, so I'm going to get the rest of these photo mats put together, and then we're going to come back and do embellishments. All right, so now we've got all of our photo mats and photo placeholders on the layout, and this particular layout had enough space for 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Sorry, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8. You could probably get a 9th photo on here over on the right hand side, which is how they had the original design. That's why it had 9 as the number. But obviously I'm using this more as a space for our embellishments and title. The thing that we don't have here and didn't seem to work out as I was laying this out was a good place to put journaling. Journaling really doesn't work on this side with all of the other things that we've got going on, and so what I have decided that I was going to do is I'm going to use a flip flap instead. I'm going to add a flip flap on this left-hand side once I get the page protector on, and I'll have another place for that 9th photo, and then I'll lift it up and I'll have a place for the journaling. I will take a picture of that so that you can see that once I get that all done. The other thing that I did is the pictures, the way the layout was, it was very linear. These two photos were straight up and down, and I really like the idea right now of playing with a bit of angles. So I'm going to go ahead and lay these down sort of at a slight angle. All right, so now let's talk about the actual embellishments. So what I've done is I've done some dry fitting, dry layout of the embellishments that I had. And if you'll remember back on the second part of this 3-parter, I punched out a whole lot of bubbles and colors and things from the gnomes as well as the standard circles, just because I knew that I might end up using them. And so I had this whole little tray of extra pieces that I had set aside. And so as I was dry fitting all of this, I thought, oh, I've got some extra space here. This would be kind of fun to kind of have the bubbles of the cauldron going up. And what I think I might end up doing, because I have this little guy with his big round O mouth, I thought I would go ahead and I see that's a little bit off the screen there, so I'll shift just a slight bit. That it would be fun if he was being carried away by the bubbles up here at the top. And so I'm going to play with this a little bit, and I'm going to see if that ends up working out. The title, So Wickedly Cute, I really loved. I was trying to find a cute title, and I thought So Wickedly Cute kind of went along with the gnome, went along with Halloween pictures for little ones, and is really quite fun. I did use the black alphabet die cuts that we had in last year's catalog. If these are still available, I will link them in the description below. I can't remember if we sold out of these or not, but these die cuts were really are really good, and create easy titles like this. On the left-hand side, I'm not going to do a whole lot because we do have a lot going on with all of the pictures and the patterns and everything on the left-hand side. So what I did is I wanted to mirror the fact that I was going to have these pumpkins on the left. I'm going to mirror those on the right so that I've got both sides being equal or having some of the same elements. And I'm probably going to do a kind of a cattywampus or a twisted pumpkin stack here. And then I'm going to put this little guy on top of that pumpkin stack. So again, I've got my little bat or spider, however you want to look at it, in both areas. I've got the pumpkins carrying across as well on that. The last thing that I will probably do with this layout is I'm going to finish off the edges. And I'm going to finish it off just by doing a black line around it. So I'm going to draw that as well. The last thing I wanted to point out that I'm going to do on this is I took that piece of paper that I had cut to see if it worked over here on this left-hand side. And what I did is I felt like she and the pumpkins and the cauldron needed a place to sit. Just putting them down on the bottom of this page really just, it felt wrong. So what I decided to do is I decided to just do a quick tearing technique. And what I did is I took the limeade and I tore this piece of paper towards me, so I got the white core edge that we have. And then when I flip it over on the other side, on the light side of limeade, I also have that white core. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use this as a place to land these elements. And by doing that, what happens is it feels like they're not floating on the page, right? It feels like they belong, that they are part of the page and they're not just floating. And that's important, that you don't have pieces that are just floating in midair. That's the same thing with this guy up here, which is why I'm thinking I'm going to have the bubbles maybe carrying him away or her away. Or my other option is I can draw a string coming down. So that might be something that I also do. But again, this is a great way to create an anchor point for your pieces. Also, you want to make sure that your pieces are touching or have a relationship to each other in some way, so that they're not floating out on their own as well. All right, so with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hear all this, and I'm going to come back with one final walkthrough of this layout. All right, I have finalized this layout. So as I said, I did decide to carry the bubbles up from the cauldron and have our little guy floating up on that on those bubbles. So wickedly cute. Again, love that particular saying. And then I put our other guy again so that we are matching over here on the left on these toppling pumpkins. And let's see, and I did the black line to edge this. So there is still quite a bit of what we would call white space here, but I do think it highlights our embellishments, but also doesn't take away from the pictures that we're going to put on this particular page when I get to them. I am out of 4x6 flip flaps. I was looking for one to show you an example, but like I said, when I get this in a sheet protector, I'm going to put a flip flap on top of it. I'll have another photo that I can add, and then when I flip it up, I can put my journaling on that flip flap. So that is my plan, but it looks like I need to order some more flip flaps. I have used up all the ones that I have. All right, well, hopefully you got some great ideas from this 3-part series, even though there was a great gap between the second part and the third part. And hopefully you can see how to create your own paper from those stencils. When you don't have paper that maybe that you could use for a particular theme, you can create your own themed paper. You saw how we took the gnomes from Autumn and turned it into a witch, as well as we have a wizard here, so I can make another page with that. I've got plenty of leftovers that I can make another page that is wizard themed. And that how you saw you could take a circle, die cut, and you could make it into a cauldron. So again, lots of really sort of fun ideas, hopefully, that you got from this in creating your own papers, and then leveraging layouts from our pattern books. Our number 6 was the pattern book that I used this time, and it was pattern 18, and that was the design that I chose to use. But I did switch it up, right? I did add some additional pieces down here that were not part of the pattern, and I mixed and matched my pictures, rotated some things as well. So hopefully you enjoyed this. Again, all the supplies that I used, if they are currently available, will be down in the description above. If you like the video, please feel free to hit the like button. And if you'd like to subscribe, I'd love to have you as a subscriber. And have a great Halloween. Hopefully everyone has a wonderful evening.